really blessed me. I feel like I am leading a blessed life. I have problems, but you know what? They're nothing compared to the balance I have with God. You know, that peace, that joy, knowing my Lord, not just talking about God. You know, just saying, I believe in God. Some people believe in God, but they don't know Him. You know, even the devils out there, those you know, rock and roll singers and, you know, people of the world say, oh, they believe in God, but do they know Him or do they worship Him? No, but they believe in God. They might even say a prayer, you know, but they live their lives like the devil, you know, but they'll say, oh yeah, I believe in God. And, but their testimony is contrary to a godly life. So, you know, I'm thankful that I know Him, not just, you know, I know Him. One of the things is we have to have an intimate relationship with God. There in Matthew, when Jesus was talking about those men, where they said, I cast out devils in thy name. I heal the sick in thy name. And see if I can find it. I don't know if I can find it right away. Starts there in 7 and 15. It says, beware of false prophets which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are what? Ravening wolves. So with God, it's very important what's on the inside of you, not just on the outside. It's okay to dress up and be nice and you're friendly to everybody, and the next minute you're saying, oh, I wish it would fall over and die. You know, no. When you say something, you need to mean it. You don't just say, God bless you, and just in the next breath, oh man, they're going to get it, they're so mean or something. No, you got to mean it inside and out. But here we see that he's talking about the ministry and the people who lie and don't speak the truth, because he's talking about the inward part of the person. And here's the key. It says, and ye shall know them by their fruits. Your fruits really shows who you are. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistle? Or do you want to eat some grapes? That ain't grape. A thorn is not a grape. Neither is a thistle a fig. It's just, I mean, you're going to try and bite down on a thorn. Bite down on a grape, there's a big difference. So, it says, even so, here's the important thing. Every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. It all starts on the inside. Here in South Texas, we know there's a difference. You can look at a tree that's producing oranges. But did you know there's some trees that produce oranges that do not taste like an orange? Tastes like a lemon. It's bitter, it's sour. You can make lemonade out of it, but you sure can't make orange juice out of it. Because the inside, the chemistry, the way it has been formed is wrong. It may look like an orange tree, but it's a bitter tree. It's not a sweet tree. And that's how you know the difference of the fruits of those trees. So our fruit, if it's bitter, it's because we are bitter. If it's sweet, it's because we are sweet. It all starts on the inside. I remember one brother said, I don't know if he's a horticulturer or what, you know, he says, you know what? If you cut that taproot too short, it's going to make the tree bitter. I don't know whether that's true or not, but when you transfer them, that's what he said. Someone transferred it and did it wrong. But you know, it has a lot to do with how the inside is formed. What makes its character. It says, a good tree cannot. Watch this. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit. If you're good on the inside, you will not bring forth evil fruit. You will not be an evil person. You'll be a good person if you're good on the inside. That's why Jesus said you got to wash the inside of the bowl, not the outside. He's talking parabolically here, but he's talking about us. You know, there's a Garden of Eden where the trees of God are planted, which we are the trees of God. And it says, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. I have yet to see down here in the south where one of those sour orange trees bring forth good, sweet oranges. They don't. They're done. And it's only good for one thing. It's cutting it up and using it for firewood or shade. And of course, making lemonade if you want. You want to do a sour drink. I know we've marinated meat with that stuff. We cut it up, squeeze it all over the meat, makes it nice and tender. That's about it. But if you're looking for something sweet, you cannot. So, a corrupt tree cannot bring forth good fruit. That's why we have to be born again. Born again. And unlike the high priest says, how can I go back into my mother's womb? That is not what Jesus was talking about. He's talking about being born again on the inside. Get rid of that old man, Adam, so that we can produce what? Good fruit. And if we're good, we cannot produce evil. Every tree bringeth not forth good fruit is what? Hewed down, cast into the fire. Just not cut down, but it's also cast into the fire. That's all it's good for. It's good firewood. That's all it's good for. But a good tree, what do? They water it. They fertilize it so it can keep producing that good fruit. Well, that's the way God is. He'll do that for us. It says, wherefore by their fruits, what? Ye shall know them. Not everyone that saith unto me, now he's talking about man. But he's just giving an example of man. Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall what? Enter into the kingdom of heaven. But he that doeth what? The will of my Father. There are many out there that say, oh, I know God, I believe in God. But do they serve him? You know. I believe there, and some will say, I believe there is a God. They may not want to worship him. But we got to know the truth. I know I've seen on my Facebook, people put words that ungodly men say about God, and they're good things, but they don't know God. They're fruits. Their fruits do not show the proof of their God. Or it shows the proof of their God, because they're not worshiping the righteous God. And they'll say a few good things, but it ain't right. It says, so you shall know them by their fruits. Neither everyone that saith unto me, neither everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven. See? Some people are calling upon the name of the Lord. But they're not going to enter into the kingdom of heaven because of their fruits. They're not wanting to change. They don't mind calling on his name. It says, but he that what? Doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. When we want to enter the kingdom of heaven, we have to do the will of our Father which is in heaven. And here he's talking about man still. It says, many will say unto me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have cast out devils. Wow, that's a lot, ain't it? I mean, think about it. And in thy name cast out devils. And in thy name done many wonderful works. Not just a few, many wonderful works in his name. And they will profess, and then I will profess unto them, He never knew them. Because they do not produce their fruits. They have big churches. They may say his name. They even encourage people to be positive. But do they teach them we need to live our sinning ways? No. There's one great pastor say, I don't teach about sin, I'll let another one take that. I ain't going to do it. I'm just going to teach them to trust God, believe God, have faith, and someone else can teach on sin. But if they don't learn from him, who is their pastor, who will they learn from? Because once you learn about sin, you know you got to change. And if something ain't good happening to you, it might. But it might be because you're doing something wrong. And we have to search ourselves. But then also, it rains on the good and the evil. You know that, right?
No.
And you got guys over there, bueno, get them out of it. Time, happenstance, happens to everybody. You can be at the wrong place at the wrong time. You can be driving in a truck and the water comes and you slide around. What can you do? You can take all the care in the world. I know I was driving in that water, but I was being careful. I was being careful because I know things could happen. I look around because I might be driving safely, but someone else may not be. And we have to be careful. We have to be, not tempt the Lord our God. Who in their right mind would run a red light? Well, in Jesus' name, nothing will happen to me. I'm going through that red light because I'm in a hurry. You're tempting the Lord. Tempting the Lord. Yeah, the adversary had it right when he told Jesus, oh, you can jump off of this and the angel shall support thy feet. And that's scriptural. That's in the Bible. It says that. They would not let no rock hurt his foot. They're in the Psalms. But he knew better. You shall not tempt the Lord thy God. You don't push something. You don't stand in the middle of the highway and say, well, God's going to protect me, and think that ain't no agent going to, hit you. You stand in the way of evil, guess what happens? Evil's going to run over you. We have to understand and know our God and His righteousness and His truthfulness. Like when you read there in Daniel chapter 3. Let's read that in Daniel chapter 3 that you read. See, they wanted him, he was having all the nations to fall down and worship that idol, that God. In verse 7, Daniel 3 and 7 is, therefore at the time when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psalmistry, and all kinds of music, all the people in the nations and language fell down and worshipped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. It says all the nations. Wherefore at the time certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. And they spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man shall hear the sound of the cornet and flute and psalmistry and drum singer and all those things, all kinds of music, and shall fall down and worship the image. And whosoever shall not fall down and worship that image, he shall be cast into the midst of a burning, fiery furnace. We don't have to do what the world does. It don't matter if everybody else is doing it. We cannot do it. They put piercing in their nose and in their tongue, everybody's tattooing their body. It's such a commonplace now, but we're not supposed to do that. This is the temple of the Lord. I remember one brother throwing, well, there's gluttony. So yes, there is. There is gluttony, but not everybody is gluttonous. You can't, just because a person's a little healthy in the flesh does not mean they're a glutton. We have to deal with metabolism. At a certain age, your body doesn't burn up, you know, the fat that you used to have. That don't make them a glutton. You know, you quit smoking, guess what? You're going to get healthy. If you quit eating, guess what up? You're going to die. Think about it. You got to eat something. And some people just don't eat very much, and they still are big. Their metabolism, they have some type of chemical imbalance where it's just hereditary. The body is designed to save the fat for the starving days. You know that? That's why whatever you eat, you don't burn it. It gets put in the fat to save it for another day.
That's in case we get sick.
In case you get sick or there's no food. It's a genetic design in your body. It does not mean you're gluttonous. If you like to eat good, that does not mean you're gluttonous. Come on, get off of it. They're trying to say all these Christians that are healthy and eat good, oh, they're gluttonous. No, they're not. Come on, let's balance it out. You weigh 600 pounds, that's a different story. 500 pounds, 400 pounds, and all you do is sit around and eat, that is gluttonous, excuse me. If all you do is sit around and eat and put on weight, and you're up to 600 pounds, 500 pounds, and you're only 4'10", hello, that is gluttony. That's gluttony. But I'm sorry, when a person is big, you're dealing a lot. You know, diabetic people, they put on weight. You know, and then there's some people that go to the extreme and don't eat hardly nothing and they're skinny as can be. Maybe they're adoring this temple. But I'm sorry, people who use gluttony as well, all Christians, you know, they're gluttonous. No, they need to consult. They just want to justify the sin of their life. It says, but a certain Jew whom said the affairs of prophets about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, these men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. You shall know them by their fruits. Lo conoces por sus frutos. What were the fruits of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? What were the fruits? Can y'all tell me what the fruits are? I just told you. What were the fruits of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Thank you. What was that again? Say it louder so I can hear you record it.
They didn't serve the idol.
The gods, yes. That's the fruits. They knew Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego because they would not bow down to that God. And they even threw in Judas. It says, and they serve not their gods, nor worship the golden image that thou hast set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in rage and fury, commanded to bring forth Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king, Nebuchadnezzar, and spake and said unto them, Is it true? Then they challenged them. O Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up. And they said, Now, if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, so on, all kinds of music, ye fall down, worship the image which I have made. But if ye worship not, ye shall be cast that same hour into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Who is that God that shall deliver thee out of my hand? They believed in a lot of gods. He said, who's the God that's going to save you from my fiery furnace? I'm going to burn you up. He was going to give them another chance. See? He's trying to be a good king, you know. Well, you know, maybe you didn't, but now you can. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said unto the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this manner. They thought what they were going to say. It said, if, you notice it says, if it be our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fire furnace. That means if God would or if he wouldn't. it's possible God may not deliver them out of the fire furnace. Can y'all see that? They're actually saying, it's possible our God may not save us from the fire furnace. And He will deliver us out of the hand of the king. Here it is. But if not, I mean, if they die in that fire furnace, can y'all see this? They ain't worried about no devil. They said, but if God did not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods nor worship thy image, which thou hast set up. Even if they burn, their fruit was, we are not going to worship those other images of gods. If God let it. They knew their God. Do you know your God? I know your God. We had to know our God. Go that extra oomph, that extra little step, and trusting in Him. Keeping our eyes on Him. Trusting Him. Bad things will come our way. But we need to just keep on stepping forward. Don't give up. You know, my sister Elias, she may have pain, but she still moves. She don't quit. Haven't seen her with a mechanical wheelchair yet. Drive herself around. She gets up, she moves. She won't let this life get her down. She's going to still pray to God. That's good. She still thanks God. That's what it should be.
If I sit on one of those chairs,
Yeah.
that won't work for me. I gotta move.
Downhill fast. And then they said, but if not, if they get burned, y'all see that? Can y'all see that? They said that. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship thy golden image. Let's read that in Spanish. Let's see it. And it says, y si no, that means si se quemaran, sepas, oh rey, que tu Dios no adoremos, ni tampoco honramos a la estatua que has levantado. Así es, si hubieran quemado, o si Dios los iba a salvar, ellos no iban a adorar a su Dios. Let's read the Bible for what it says. And then Nebuchadnezzar, full of fury and form in his visage, was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he spake, commanded they should be heat in the furnace, what? 7 times more than it was wont to be heated. He doesn't even realize that the number 7 is the number of God. And we want that number of God on our side. Number 7 is the number of God. And they heated it up. And this is how it worked. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in the army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. He didn't just want anybody. He was going to show them the best. And we're going to read here, it cost him some mighty men in his army that could not handle the very heat. For the fiery strength of that fire was the number of God. And then these men were bound in their coats, they were hosen, and their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, and the furnace exceedingly hot, that the flames of the fire, what? Slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Sounds like they all should have died. But even Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, and if our God does not, we're still not going to serve the gods of this world. But guess what? God showed them favor. They tolerated the fire. But even those that are already judged cannot tolerate that fire. You know, when you're in the world and you're serving the world and you're serving the devil, you're already judged. We need to come in here to be judged unto righteousness and unto eternal life. You can't get that eternal life judgment out there. It's in here. in the presence of God. It says God inhabits the praises of his people. Well, if God's here, guess what? We're being judged by him. Each time we have service, he's searching out our heart. He's searching out the inner part of us. Are we producing bitter oranges or sweet oranges? You know, and he can change us. He can change us. Remember that time that the water was bitter and they couldn't eat? And the prophet came, and what did he do?
Threw another water.
Right? A branch into the water, and it changed it to sweet water. They could drink it. Well, God can change us too. From the branch of the son of Jesse, which is Jesus. He can touch this bitter water, this bitter fountain within us, and make it sweet and into life eternal. And it says, and these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the midst of the fire furnace. And of course, after a while, with that fire, that rope burned. Then Nebuchadnezzar, king, was astonished and rose up in haste, and spake and said unto the counselors, did not we cast 3 men bound in the midst of the fire? And they answered, said, yes, unto the king. King, true, O king. He answered and said, lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the fourth is like unto the Son of God. It was God. It was Jesus. There in the midst with them. So when we go through the fire, whether we're burning or whether we're not burning, we can have Jesus with us. The Son of God. You know, it says, and Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fire furnace and spake unto Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants? All right, something has changed. Ye servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth from the midst of the fire. They weren't going to send any more men to get him out. They said, no, y'all come out. It's okay. And the princes and governors and captains and kings and counselors, being gathered together, saw these men upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was an hair on their heads singed, neither their clothes changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. That's how God is. You know, that's why we teach that we want to go back to that Garden of Eden state. But we know in the entrance, God has placed an angel with a fiery sword that turns every which way. And that's why we want to be spiritual people and not fleshly people. Spiritually people. Spiritually guided by the Holy Spirit. So when we go into that Garden of Eden state, and that angel has that fiery sword going round and round, and if we have become spiritual and not fleshly, we can walk through that fire. But if we have any flesh in us, guess what? When the fire gets near it, we're going to feel it. Those mighty men that threw into the fire were flesh. But these boys were acting in a spiritual manner, trusting God. Not tempting him, because it said, if God does not save us, we're still, and that's being spiritual, we're still not going to worship those idols, those gods. They were being spiritual when they gave that answer to that king. And that's how we are and should be when we're in this place and when we're out of that place. We will not worship those other gods. We will not do as they. You know, it's a little thing, but there was a time when, you know, I'd walk around in shorts without a shirt and everything. Now I find it a little difficult. I don't want to go out there naked. I'll wear pants, I'll wear a long sleeve shirt, I'll wear a t-shirt sometimes, but I like to wear a long sleeve, and it can be hot out there. And they look at me strange. I go, aren't you hot? I go, no, I'm fine. You know, I want to dress appropriately for God. We're different. My doctor looked at me funny. He says, how come, I see you wearing suspenders and long sleeve and, you know, all this stuff. Do you do a lot of work? You know, well, not really. I mean, but I'll work outside the house. I'll do things. Whatever, plumbing, electrical, but I just, you know, I'm ready to work. If anything comes up and I get the gumption to do it, I can go outside, you know. I don't have to worry about the sun beating down on me because I got protection from the sun. I know I've seen people that have burnt arms and burnt legs and burnt backs because they haven't covered up, and the sun can really damage your skin. But you can stay cool with long sleeve, you know, because you sweat underneath, and that sweat gets blown with the air and it cools you off. You wear a t-shirt and you sweat, or you don't wear a t-shirt and you sweat and the water evaporates, you have no more way to cool your body. But that was my choice. I've had, you know, I wear shorts, but not all the time. I've had my family tell me, you know, I go visit them, why aren't you wearing shorts? It's so hot. I go, I'm fine. You know, I've worn shorts. I can go swimming, I'll wear shorts and stuff like that. But I do my best to keep myself, you know, as righteous as I can. But it, you know, I believe it is important to God how we dress. It is. We're supposed to be dressing modestly. You know, and not to tattoo ourselves. I'm pushing a lot of that because I see so much of it out there. I see Christians, so-called Christians, saying, what tattoo will I'll take next? Come on, we're not out of the world. You know what makes a snake hard to find? ¿Qué es difícil encontrar un serpiente? ¿Sabes lo que es? Se esconda. Hides. Blend in. It could be staring right at him, you won't see it. Because a serpent blends in with his environment. You don't even know they're there. I remember seeing a TV show where the lady was going with her little child and carrying on her arm, and next thing you know, she felt like a hit on her little boy, and she didn't pay attention to it. Oh, what happened? Why did I feel a hit on my little boy's leg? Kept walking, and a serpent had bit the child because they were walking near limbs, trees. She didn't see the serpent. But, you know, a serpent has a certain line that you do not cross, because if you cross that line, they will attack you. And this world has a lot of people with serpent natures. And if you cross that line, they will bite you. Oh, they'll say one thing, and as you leave, they'll turn it around and say another. That's a serpent nature. They hide things. It says, did I not heal the sick in thy name? Do many wonders, cast out demons. I never knew you, because their fruits. They became sealed houses. They said, you can be a member of my church, but you have to believe all this, you sign that, and then you can be a member. And you have to tithe. If you don't tithe, you're not a member. My goodness. And like Brother Augusto would say, you know, in his church, there's good standing members and members anywhere. Just depends on how well you give. What a way to gauge a person's Christianity is how you give. That's wrong. But he has that. They have that for you. That's not right. Should treat everybody the same. Love everybody the same. Not show no difference. Whether they poor or whether they're not. Whether they give or whether they can't give. Either or. It doesn't matter. That's love them. Can't be servants. Cannot be hiding in the crowd. You never know they were Christians because they look like the rest of the people. remember seeing in one of the Assembly of God's youth meetings. They showed on the internet. And they were singing worldly songs. This was an Assembly of God youth conference meeting. And they were singing rock and roll songs. This is supposedly good songs, nice songs. But they were rock and roll songs. Showing to the youth they were no different from the world. Well, guess what? We are supposed to be different from the world. To the degree that they'll spot you and they go, hey, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, why aren't you doing like everybody else and worshiping this world? No. They'll tell you by your language. They can tell you by your language, how you speak. Remember what happened to Peter? Jesus told him, you shall deny me. Oh no, I love you, Lord. I'll die for you. Don't you worry about it. I'll fight for you. There ain't nobody gonna hurt you. He says, no. You're gonna deny me 3 times before the cock crows, before the morning starts. No, not me, Lord. No. Guess what? Jesus knew him by his fruits. He was zealous around Jesus, but when it cost him his livelihood, they restore him. And then they challenged him. Aren't you one of those that follow the Christ, Jesus? No, not me. I know what you're talking about. Moved him to another spot. He was trying to see what they're doing to Jesus. Another spot. I know you. You're one of those disciples that would follow Christ, that would follow this Jesus. Not me. No, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just another Jew. Blending in. And finally, he blended in just like the one that followed this Jesus. And how did he blend in? He blankety blank. He started cursing them up a storm. He sounded, his fruits were that of the world but not of Christ.
Yeah, that's why the rooster sang 3 times.
Yeah, after that, they left him alone. They didn't try and challenge him anymore. Because his fruits. If he hadn't said no cuss words, si no hubiera usado maldiciones, nunca lo hubieran crucificado con Cristo. That's right. They would have grabbed him and thrown him in jail. Saved him to be crucified for another day. Because they asked him, did he say this? Yes, he said, I shall kill thee, tear down this temple, in 3 days I will raise it up. And Peter knew what that meant. He did. Had to. Jesus taught him. But he hadn't seen the fruits of the words of Christ. You know the fruits of the word of Christ? You know what they were, the fruits of the word of Christ? His resurrection. His words were just words until he resurrected. Yes, he did many mighty miracles, but so did others. But no one had ever resurrected from the dead and stayed eternally resurrected, other than Christ. You know, men, the prophets have resurrected children and men and brought life, but they hadn't stayed resurrected. They didn't stay alive eternally. Well, Christ was the first one to resurrect, go into the presence of God, the Father, and come back with a glorified body, which we shall have one day. But we'll know by their fruits. How did they know them by their fruits? They didn't even smell of a fire. That was the fruits of righteousness. And then, good thing Nebuchadnezzar repented. He said, Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him and have changed the king's word and yielded their bodies that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and against Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, and because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. And it's a good thing he repented. You know, God had placed him over all mankind. He was to rule over every mankind. And you know, God had to put them in this position to remind them who he was and why he was put there. But when Nebuchadnezzar forgot God, this God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, what happened to him? He ate grass for 7 years. He grew out his fingernails and toenails the length of a talon. He was like a beast of the field, an animal. And that's what it is when you're without God. When you do not have God in your life, that's the way it is. That's why it's important to have God in our life and recognize Him as our God. Commentaries? Questions? If not, let us pray. Thank you, Lord, for this day, Lord. I ask you to bless them, give you strength. Help them, Lord, to stand in the fire, Lord. Go out there and represent you. Not bow to these gods, Lord. Not bow to these people, these men in this world that desires to take your righteousness out and forget that you exist, Lord. But we know you do. We feel you. We know you are our God. We thank you for everything. I ask you to bless these people, Lord God. Precious name, I pray. Amen. Any opposed, Señor Vicente?